Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your twice weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the new Disney action-adventure film Jungle Cruise.
Oh my gosh.
Illusion! Torpedo.
Oh my.
I, in theory, am excited about this and when they do these things.
Okay.
I remember the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
It was one of those times where you went to the movies, you got out, you got friends and went back.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a fan. I grew up with 80s and 90s Disney. I'm a fan of not everything has to have a tie-in, some kind of branding. Having said that, I prefer this to retrofitting rides. There was a let's play pretend quality to Disneyland and Disney World when they were launched with Adventureland and Frontierland and Tomorrowland. And sort of little by little, we've retrofit Disney properties into them because kids these days have to have the brand recognition.
Yeah, like I miss Maelstrom. I miss the Maelstrom.
I
like the Frozen ride, but I miss the Maelstrom.
Oh, it's actually a pretty dynamite dark ride. And if that were the case, I would prefer what they're doing in Disney Springs, which is building a new land.
Yeah.
That is Arendelle. But yeah, I didn't want to lose that. And though Pirates turned into a mecca conglomerate, blah, 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 we still have the original ride. I mean, the worst they did was sort of like
they updated it. Yeah.
Well, they put in a too realistic looking Jack Sparrow figure, and it's incongruous with the rest of the ride.
Like to the point where I sometimes am like, that is Johnny Depp just hanging out.
It could be.
It could be.
It could be. He's not filming movies.
That's true.
So yeah, and I really thought, I was like, you know what? Where's Jungle Cruise? Remember? Because I pitched a Jungle Cruise.
Like 10 years ago.
Like 15 years ago.
Yeah, you were like, Ellen DeGeneres and Owen Wilson are a brother-sister duo that does a Jungle Cruise.
That do janky cruises.
Yeah.
They're like...
And I was like...
and I think I was like Mandy Moore and like John Krasinski are like a married couple.
Yeah.
And then there was going to be like Danny DeVito and it was going to be this like Gilligan's Island sort of thing. And especially for like 2008, you know, that would have been
great.
But no, I thought that like the big e-ticket rides, in particular the mountains, I thought Space Mountain, I thought Thunder Mountain, I was like, get it going.
Well, and just the other day, I was like, there's no excuse why they haven't remade the Swiss Family Robinson yet. That also has to be like public IP at this point.
Or the Haunted Mansion. Yeah. It's like, give that another go.
Actually, I saw something the other day
been threatening
that they are like gonna do it again. So
I've also actually seen that apparently the Eddie Murphy one has its charms. Because I only saw it the one time in the theater. So, because I just said, I was like, I mean, keep Jennifer Tilly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but this trailer came and I was not impressed. I don't know, something about it. Yeah, you liked the trailer? You thought it looked good?
I, to be frank, maybe watched it half a time. I don't
Same.
like trailers because we see them so much in the movies, so I just like try to avoid them at all costs at this point.
I started to, and in particular, once the pandemic hit, I just put this off my radar because I was like, well, let me get far enough away from it. I also, speaking of pandemics, we have had big plans because we're in Orlando. So we have had big plans we traditionally have had season passes to Disney, and we wanted to start incorporating some theme park stuff into our pop culture extravaganza. And like, I really
just continue our trend of traumatizing Rachel and make her do the Country Bear Jamboree again.
Well, I really I was like, we can go and do a whole thing about Jungle Cruise, like actually go to the park. I was so prepared to do it. And here we are on the eve of closing back down. But
yeah. Also, Lakeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish. It's like announced.
Haunted Mansion?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah. I was like 100% yes.
So, yeah. So I went into this movie with the loosest of faith in Emily Blunt and The Rock's ability to elevate any material they are given.
Okay.
Hopefully themselves. And call my bluff. This movie's half good. It's watchable.
I loved it.
Did you? You loved it. Did you really?
I loved it. I had such a good time. I was like, okay, I have a couple caveats.
There's some caveats.
There's some sloppy parts, which we'll get into, but I was just fully delighted from start to finish. I was like 100% there. This is what I want from summer movies. It's nonsense. It's fun. It's silly. I loved it.
Okay. So my biggest gripe is it was too much.
That is my main caveat. I think it could have been at least 15 minutes shorter. I also think there was no need for two villains, which is a classic Disney Marvel properties thing. And I thought that the whole, which we'll get into it more later, I'll just say a general thing now. I thought that the whole extra thing with Frank, with The Rock, was one step too far.
It was too much. And for me, I cannot go as far as to say that it breaks the movie, but it is
bending to the breaking point.
It brought my viewing experiment to a crawl.
Yeah.
Viewing experience to a crawl. So I was all in for the first hour.
Okay.
We grade movies on a scale. You know what I mean? It's not good or bad. It's not up or down. And so it's like...
Well, it's also like, is this anywhere in the ballpark of the other movie we saw this weekend, The Green Knight? No. Stylistically, thematically, nothing about it can be compared.
It's just too much. Yeah. It just needed to be pared back. I said easily 35% of it needs to be gutted. Like, out.
It depends. The thing for me though is like you could shave those 15 minutes off in the front. It doesn't need so much exposition about him and the money and Paul Giamatti and like
Paul Giamatti is. I mean, he's not necessary at all.
He's great. He's always welcome. I dig it, but it's also like totally unnecessary. We don't need to know that Frank has financial problems
because it's like two movies.
Yeah.
There's this like jungle expedition explorer movie, and then there's a Pirates of the Caribbean movie smashed together. There are 3 exposition dumps in this, and you get real silly with the words and the phrases and the stuff. And like I said, I'm allowing it. It's fine. Also, and this is in accordance with the too much, but she was in deathly peril too much.
A lot.
Like a
lot.
Like,
yeah.
It's like she almost dies like 73 times. And it's like, that's too many, like 5 is too many. Like, and that's what I was saying to Will when you walked out. But I was like, that whole scene where she almost drowned, I was like, this is.
Oh, yeah. Well, it also, I was just like, Casino Royale. I was like, I don't need this.
It was, well, good. And also that lake was draining for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They just kept going down. I was like, they're going to be at the center of the earth by the time they finish this conversation. It looked really good. It had that artificial sheen that I really like because it was consistent. It had just this kind of gorgeous golden color palette that you frequently get from South America.
But also lots of bright colors, too. Lots of really bright colors. All the, like, wildlife and, like, even, for me, there was, like, probably 9,000 too many snakes. But they were colorful.
As is the case with every single one of these movies. There's this exclusive gay moment, blah, blah, blah. And it is in this one. We'll talk about it. But people are focusing on that. And I'm like, sure, but the death count in this movie is staggering.
It's a lot.
There's a scene, and you're dealing with supernatural elements, but a character gets sliced across the face with a sword, and snakes come out of his face.
Yeah,
it's hellish. Yeah. It's like
it's like body horror.
Yeah. Oh, there's some body horror. Although that's some of the stuff that actually like it's part of the too much we mentioned, but it also was some of the best parts.
Okay, yes, because it was like we are jumping all around and we have not set it up at all, but like all of the conquistadors were like different. Like they weren't all snakes. The bee guy was so cool.
I've never seen anything like it.
Dripping in honey. It was so cool.
His head was like honeycomb.
It was amazing. And I've never seen anything like it. It was very cool.
And I always appreciate that. And so that also for me adds to it, where it's like the parts that I thought were too much, at least were creative.
Sure.
Like at least was like I wasn't, as we mentioned, full spoilers. I didn't come into this being like, I bet you The Rock is immortal. I bet he's part of this curse.
Okay. Yeah.
It was too much, because I was at a point where I'm like, okay, fine. The romance is fine.
Yeah.
But even that was striking me as a bridge too far. And then we add like blood feud.
Yeah. Well, he also like, so it was inspired by The African Queen with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn.
Okay.
Where it's like a very antagonistic, but they fall in love essentially. And so
Screwball,
yeah. Yeah. And so I also kind of like it. I think it could have done without the romance. I'm not mad at the romance. And to be totally honest, the chemistry between the two of them was electric.
I would have never been like, The Rock and Emily Blunt and The Rock need to really like. There was just something about it that like.
But it was great. Their chemistry was dynamite.
She looked. Well, they both like.
Hot, super hot.
Yeah, but it's like both of them. It's like she's 40 and he's 50, and they're both going on like 32.
They both look amazing.
Yeah, like
super amazing. Is she really 40?
I think so.
Almost. She's 38. Yeah,
okay,
almost.
I'm gonna sound like I didn't like it, and I did. I mean, I don't know how many times I would watch this, but would we get it's like the third exposition dump when he's explaining the magic and all that stuff, and I kind of started to laugh because it is so much. There is like screeching electric guitars.
Okay, yes.
And like pounding drums. It turns into Phantom of the Opera.
It was bizarre. The music in that scene was bizarre. It was so like anachronistic. It didn't work at all. This is a James Newton Howard score. I clocked that in the credits. And usually I'm like a really big fan. There was some stuff about this score that was too much. That scene, especially, I saw you start writing. Like about halfway through, you were like, I gotta make a note here.
It's like as he's like conquistador fighting, and there's like a native princess girl, and it goes to some places where I'm like, I mean, at no point was I like, this is not the Jungle Cruise. But, because that was another thing that I was so curious about, is anyone who's familiar with the ride knows that it's a product of its time.
Yeah. Well, they've updated it.
Like literally weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so I was curious about what, if anything, they were going to do with, say, like the tribes people. Mm-hmm. And we reach a point where we get there and I'm like, man, we're going for this. Like they're going full cannibal with it. And sure enough, there's like a smoke screen and it ended up being, I should know her name.
Trader Sam.
Trader Sam.
Yeah. Veronica Falcone.
She really steals the show.
So funny.
We could have spent more time with her or used more of her and less of like the Nazi submarine boat chase, which was exciting in its own right.
Also, that being said, we have to talk about Jesse Plemons. Again, a scenery eating, every scene stealing role from him. I don't know where inside himself he gets this from, but it is remarkable. It was
so bizarre. Like I just kind of, even with the like 1919 setting, I wasn't like, oh, I bet you we're going to get like a Nazi prince. And I mean, we do.
Kaiser Wilhelm's youngest son, I think is how he was presented.
Because there was a part of me that I was like, man, like, let's bring on 20 Dozen Leagues Under the Sea. Like, let's just keep going for it. But I loved all the nods, especially we were like hysterical. The nod to the ride, like the whole chunk in the beginning.
All of his stupid jokes. So funny. So funny. And then it keeps happening throughout. And like Jack Whitehall is laughing at it. And Emily Blunt is like, you're ridiculous.
I thought, okay. I loved Jack Whitehall.
Yeah, I thought he was
I'm a huge fan of his in particular.
Yeah. He has this show with his dad where they just like go around. They just like travel. It's very funny.
The gay stuff, it is what it is. You know, we're at a place where it would be really easy for us to sell views on YouTube by like making angry faces and like clickbaity headlines about gay baiting or Disney does it again. And we
okay, look, I agree. He doesn't say the words.
No.
That being said, this is the closest they've gotten.
And that's what I mean when I say it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, should it be better? Yes. Could it have been better? Yes. Should it have been better sooner? Yes. But this is what we have.
Yeah.
And it can't be undone.
No, 100%.
Like,
also,
it can't be unhistoried. Like,
yeah. And I still maintain the thing that it's like, I don't agree with it, but they are trying to make money in foreign markets that are not as accepting. And so it's like, I don't know what to really do. You can just write him off as a dandy.
The main reason why I get mad at that is because they do it while also masquerading
themselves on
as
the back.
being like
100%
as being like
allies.
Ethical.
Yeah.
Like it was bold for the story, even I think, because the implications are that he came out, and was everyone but his sister turned on him, and to then have it co-signed, you know, by The Rock. And again, I was like, this movie, that's, if we're taking the angle that, gay people are too risque for children's movies, well, this isn't a children's movie.
No, like, definitely not.
So many people are bit in the face by snakes.
It's PG-13. Also, at 2 different points, The Rock is killed and plummets to his death while hitting every branch and rock on his way down. So just keep that in mind.
It may not be what we deserve, but it's what we got, and I'm gonna. He's my little dandy, and
Jack Whitehall. No, I
thought he was great. Like the character was fun. The character was good.
He also was not a one-dimensional, you know, really queeny,
which was what they had originally reported.
I think they did reshoots.
I was gonna say I don't know if they reshot it.
Yeah.
Because I'm over like pre-reactions, like pre-backlashes and all that.
Sure, like you haven't even seen it yet and you're talking shit.
And people, I mean, we've been hearing about this for 3 years.
I had no issue with it. I thought he was an interesting, well-rounded character. I mean, he had legitimate fears about the leopard and the cheetah, and it's just like...
Was she a cheetah?
I don't know now that I said leopard.
I think she was a leopard.
Maybe
Leopards have spots.
But are cheetahs from Africa? Oh, well, that's part of the joke, too, is that there's, like, just wildlife that doesn't belong there sometimes.
She was a good girl.
She was very good.
I caught on when she bit him.
Yeah.
I was like, this is his cat.
Yeah.
Because...
Also, okay, I'm sorry. One of the best visual gags in this movie is at the beginning, before they've even hired The Rock, but she's, like, trying to... And they sit down at this restaurant and order steaks and something, and the steak comes out and it is like
it's the
big
size
as
of
this thing.
Yeah.
It was like bigger than Emily Blunt's head, and it was so comical sitting in front of her.
And it was also like the critters and the life in this are, because I mean,
again, the aforementioned snakes, they were cool, even though there were too many of them.
Well, there's a montage that really got me, because there's like a leaf, and then there's an ant eating a leaf. And then this like spider comes and like, and eats the ant. And then a bird comes and eats a spider. And then another bird comes, and I was like, like it's just kind of.
There were quite a few like circle of life moments in this movie. It was pretty cool.
And then there were the guys betting over the
scorpion
and the tarantula, like cockfighting. And I was like,
yeah, it's pretty gross.
Like I said, the very exposition-y, there's Tears of the Lost Moon, and I mean, I prefer that to just being, you know, the Holy Grail or the Fountain of Youth, Or
it made for an incredible set piece at the end when the tree blooms. It was stunning.
But again,
stunningly beautiful.
it was too much. It was
To me, it was sort of like the National Treasure movies, where it's like, it's always one more thing. And I love the National Treasure movies. So to me, that's what it felt the most akin to. And so I just was like, and I was like, I ate my whole thing of popcorn, which is unusual for me. I was like, ah.
You're right. It's this behemoth of a tree.
Yeah.
And it's like the branches are underwater. And when like the moon, it's like a red ant moon or something, like comes out, it like the branches rise and these like pink angel trumpets come out. And it like, it was, like you said, it was very stunning.
Yeah. Well, it like glowed and everything. And there was like a little puzzle that you had to fit something in. I mean, I don't know. Again, I definitely see the flaws in this movie, but I mean, for like entertainment value, it way outweighed any, gripes I had with it for sure. I had a great time.
You could do worse if you're even remotely inclined to cacophonous blockbuster digital Disney extravaganza, then it's one of the better ones. I think it's like I said, it's one of the better Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say is I'm possibly still high from being able to go back to the movies, and also
we're staring down the barrel,
and also devastated about almost definitely having another year where we can't go to the movies very soon. But this is the best time I had at the movies so far this year. I just was like delighted from start to finish. And it wasn't like crazy heavy. Like there was some heavy stuff in Black Widow, and then we saw The Green Knight, and we've seen some heavy stuff, recently. But I just really liked it. If you are comfortable going to the theater, I would say see it in the theater because it is quite a spectacle.
Huge.
But it is also, in my opinion, worth the $30 for your family to see this on Disney Plus. So
fucking loves this
I loved
movie.
it. I thought it was
no notes.
No, I definitely had notes, but like overall, no, I was perfectly satisfied with this movie. So pumped about it. I will watch this movie constantly.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. It was great.
Yeah. All right. 1 and 2 and 3.5 thumbs up. Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter at So I'm Watching or Instagram at So I'm Watching This Show. We also have a Patreon, So I'm Watching patreon.com/So I'm Watching This Show, and our website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything. And if you would please like and subscribe on YouTube to this video, that
You'll
would
get some more of those sweet House of Gucci trailer reactions.
Yes, that's what everybody that's watching this movie is clamoring for.
Seriously, apparently.
Yeah, no, for real.
Although this one needs to shut up and watch the reaction.
Yeah, the lady needs to shut her mouth. Gotta love the comments. All right.
Too much talk and not enough reaction. Quit it. Bye.